We live in a long, narrow house at the edge of the woods. It's old, probably older than it should be, and it has 3 doors on the second floor that lead to the same hallway. My family has a rule about one of them. Never open the 3rd door. It's not locked. It's not nailed shut. There's nothing special about it at a glance. Just a smooth wooden panel with a tarnished brass handle. But I grew up knowing better than to touch it. My dad was always stern about the house rules. No walking in the woods after dark. No taking food out of the basement freezer. And never, under any circumstance, open the 3rd door upstairs. I asked him once what was behind it, and he just looked at me like I'd asked something disgusting. You don't want to know what's in there, he said. And I don't want to remember. That was when I was 9. I stopped asking after that. The thing is, our family changes. We're not a big clan or anything. Just the 3 of us when I was growing up. Mom, Dad, me. But relatives came and went. Some stayed with us for weeks, some for months. There were always cousins I didn't recognize at Christmas, aunts who hugged me too tight and whispered things I didn't understand. But the 3rd door stayed closed. Sometimes I'd pass it at night and hear something faint. Not a voice exactly, but something like shuffling, as if someone was walking in a room too small to pace. Once, when I was 13, I swore I heard a knock from the other side. Just a single tap, soft, like a fingernail. I ran downstairs and refused to sleep in my room for a week. My parents never acknowledged it. They treated the door like a piece of the wall. And when I tried to joke about it, my mom just went pale and told me not to be cruel. To who? She didn't say. When I turned 18, my dad gave me the strangest birthday gift, a key. This isn't for that door, he said immediately before I could ask. It's for the house. If anything ever happens to me or your mom, come back here. But remember what I said. That 3rd door stays shut. At the time, I thought it was overkill. Dramatic even. I was heading off to college in the fall, and all I wanted was to escape that suffocating little house and the eerie tension that seemed to live in every shadow. But 4 years later, I came back, and the house wasn't empty. It started with a phone call from the sheriff's office. My parents had been reported missing. Not for a day, not for a week, but 3 full months. The mail was piling up. The neighbors hadn't seen them. No signs of travel. Their car was still in the garage. I hadn't heard from them either, but I'd assumed they were off-grid. My dad hated phones. My mom loved those little spiritual retreats in the mountains. I figured they were off meditating or some hippie nonsense. But 3 months? I drove home the next day, key in hand, stomach churning. The front door was locked. Everything looked undisturbed. The flower beds, the porch, the old wind chimes that hadn't chimed in years. The only sign something was wrong was the smell. Not decay, not mildew. Vanilla. It hit me the moment I stepped inside. Heavy and cloying, like a candle burning in every room. I found no actual candles, no open jars or diffusers. Just that smell, thick and unnatural. I walked the room slowly, calling their names. Nothing. No notes, no packed bags. Their bedroom was tidy. The fridge was full of spoiled food. The basement freezer was humming quietly, untouched. Then I went upstairs. Everything was where I remembered it. My old bedroom, still full of posters and dust. The guest room, empty but clean. And the hallway. 3 doors. Left, my room. Middle, the guest room. Right, the door. It looked the same. Smooth wood, brass handle. But the air around it felt warmer somehow. The vanilla scent was stronger here, like it was leaking from the cracks. I stood there for a long time, just staring. Then I noticed something that chilled me to the bone. There were footprints. Faint, but visible against the dust on the floorboards. Bare footprints, small and narrow, leading from the 3rd door to the stairs. But none leading back. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch with all the lights on, gripping my phone with one hand and a baseball bat with the other. Every few minutes, I'd think about calling someone. Maybe the sheriff, maybe an old friend, but I didn't know what I'd even say. Hi. I came home to an empty house and smelled vanilla. Also, there's a cursed door upstairs. Could you come over and deal with that? No one would believe me. At some point past 2 a.m., I started hearing the creaks. Not the normal kind. This house has always groaned like a ship in the wind. But these were sharp, deliberate. Footsteps. Soft and slow, moving across the 2nd floor. I tiptoed up the stairs with my heart pounding and stood at the top step, holding my breath. The hallway was empty. The 3rd door stood motionless. But the scent of vanilla had deepened. Thicker now, like it was pressing against my face, trying to climb into my lungs. I couldn't bring myself to go closer. Instead, I went back downstairs and locked myself in the bathroom until morning. The next day, I began searching the house properly. I checked closets, cabinets, under beds. I even opened the attic door and crawled through the dust and insulation. No sign of my parents. No sign of anyone. But in the basement, I found something new. The freezer, my dad's sacred, never-to-be-touched freezer, was empty. Not unplugged, not broken. Just empty. No meat, no ice, no condensation. As if it had never been used. I stood there staring into it for almost a full minute before I noticed the sound behind me. A creaking step. I turned fast, heart in my throat. No one was there. But the light bulb above me began to flicker. Once. Twice. Then it blew out entirely, plunging the basement into darkness. I didn't run. I bolted. Up the stairs, skipping every other step, slamming the door behind me like a child afraid of the dark. My chest burned with panic, and for a moment, I swore I heard something behind the door. A sigh. Soft. Tired. Human. I sat on the kitchen floor for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there trying to remember if anyone else in my family had ever mentioned the third door. My Uncle Paul. He visited every few years and never stayed overnight. My cousin Danny. She used to live with us for a while, but then she left without saying goodbye. In fact, a lot of people who stayed here didn't stay long. Some never came back. That night, I dreamed of the third door. In the dream, I was standing in the hallway again. The door was open just a crack, and something inside whispered my name. Not loudly, not urgently, just like it knew me. Like it had always known me. I stepped forward. The door opened wider on its own. And I saw. I woke up gasping. My shirt was damp with sweat, and the vanilla smell was in my room now. Heavy. Sweet. Coating my tongue. I stumbled to the window, flung it open, and gagged on the cold air. The vanilla followed me even there. That was the moment I decided to break the rule. I waited until noon the next day. Bright sunlight poured through the windows, and I told myself that daylight made everything weaker. Ghosts, monsters, memories. Maybe it was childish, but I needed something to believe in. I stood in front of the third door, hand on the knob. It wasn't locked. It never had been. But the second I touched the brass handle, a jolt ran through my arm. Like static, but deeper, like it touched something in my bones. I turned the knob anyway. It opened silently. Behind the third door was a room. Just a room. No blood, no bones. No swirling vortex to another dimension. A bed, small and neatly made. A dresser. A chair in the corner. It looked like a child's room. No toys, but everything was low to the ground. A single window let in dusty light. And the smell. The vanilla was strongest here. It lived here. I stepped inside. The moment I crossed the threshold, my ears popped. The air felt denser, and the silence was deeper than silence should be. I walked to the dresser. Inside were old children's clothes. Hand-sewn. Faded. No tags. No dust. I turned to leave, my heart hammering. And that's when I saw the mirror. It hadn't been visible from the hallway. It was mounted on the back of the door. And in it, I wasn't alone. In the mirror, standing directly behind me, was a little girl. She was no more than 6 or 7, dressed in a white smock that ended just above her knees. Her skin was pale, but not corpse pale, just faded, like an old photograph. Her eyes were too large for her face, and they were fixed on me. She didn't move. Not in the mirror. Not in real life. I spun around, breath caught in my throat. The room was empty. But when I looked back into the mirror, she was still there. Her head tilted slowly, like a puppet on a string. And her mouth began to move. I couldn't hear the words. Just the motion, slow and deliberate, like she was speaking through syrup. I stepped backward into the hallway and slammed the door shut, nearly jamming my fingers in the frame. The second the door clicked, the air cleared. The vanilla scent was gone. My heart still thudded in my ears. I stayed outside the room, leaning against the opposite wall, waiting for some kind of logic to return. But nothing came. No explanation. Just silence and the oppressive memory of her eyes. When I finally found the courage to move, I locked myself in my childhood bedroom and slept with a lamp on. It didn't help. I dreamt of mirrors and voices I couldn't hear. The next morning, I called my cousin Danny. She was one of the last relatives to live with us long-term. I hadn't spoken to her in years, but she picked up immediately, like she'd been waiting for my call. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. Do you remember the third door? There was a pause. Not static. Just silence. Then, you opened it, didn't you? I froze. How did you know? I dreamt it, she whispered. Last night. Same as before. Before I could ask what that meant, she continued. Listen to me. That room isn't a room. It's a knot. It holds things in place. Things that are supposed to stay forgotten. What things? You saw her, didn't you? The girl. My mouth went dry. I couldn't answer. She's part of it. But she's not the only one. The room remembers. And now that you've opened it, her voice faltered. It's awake again. What's awake? But she hung up. That day, the third door remained shut. I didn't dare open it again. But it didn't matter. That night, I heard it. Knocking. Not on the door. Not on any door. From inside the walls. Light taps, like fingertips on wood. They moved. From the upstairs hallway to the kitchen. Then to the den. Then, somehow, beneath the floorboards where I sat. I didn't sleep at all. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. No number. Just a single message. Third door stays shut. I deleted it and turned off the phone. But something in me shifted. The house didn't feel like mine anymore. I started digging into my family history. I pulled out old photo albums from the attic, newspaper clippings, journals. Most of it was dull, birthday parties, baby announcements, blurry snapshots of family picnics. But tucked in the back of a water-stained folder, I found a document labeled Patient Intake, Harper Clinic. The name on the form, Lillian Mercer. My mother's maiden name. Age, 7. Admitted for persistent hallucinations, sleepwalking, and obsessive behaviors related to locked doors. I read the file 3 times. There was a note scrawled in the margin, maybe by a doctor. Claims there is a girl behind the third door. States the girl knows what we forget. Parents refuse further testing. I dropped the folder and stumbled back, knocking over a box. From inside, more papers spilled out. Drawings. Crude crayon sketches. Most just scribbles and shapes. But one caught my eye. It was a picture of the hallway upstairs. 3 doors. And behind the third door, drawn in thick black wax, was a girl with no face. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? I barely believed myself. But I started noticing more things. The pictures on the wall were wrong. Little details I hadn't caught before. In one photo, my mom had a scar she never had in real life. In another, the couch in the background was upside down. In every photo with the upstairs hallway, the third door was slightly open. Always just a crack. Always just enough. That night, I nailed the door shut. Wooden boards, hammer, the works. I even said a prayer over it. Not because I believed it would help, but because I needed to feel like I was doing something. And for a day, it was quiet. No knocking. No vanilla. No whispers. I started to believe I'd fixed it. Until the next morning, when I woke up to find the boards on the floor and the door open. Just an inch. And inside, on the floor just beyond the threshold, my father's wallet. It was definitely his wallet. Worn brown leather, half unzipped, with his old college ID visible through the plastic window. I'd seen it in his hands 1,000 times growing up. It even smelled like him, faint tobacco and motor oil. But it hadn't been there the day before. I was sure of it. I stood in the hallway staring at it for several minutes, afraid to pick it up. It wasn't just that it came from inside the third room. It was that it hadn't aged a day. The leather wasn't dry. The zipper wasn't rusted. The cash inside, $1.28 and a folded receipt from the gas station in town, was dated the day they disappeared. It was as if he'd just dropped it, and someone, or something, had given it back. I took it and backed away. I didn't close the door this time. I didn't want to touch it again. Instead, I called the sheriff's office. This time, I told them everything. Well, not everything. Just enough to justify an official visit. I said I'd found something of my father's that hadn't been in the house before. That I was worried they'd returned and something bad had happened. I may have let my voice shake a little. They agreed to send someone by in the morning. I sat on the porch that night with the bat in my lap, and every light in the house turned on behind me. I didn't dare go back upstairs. The deputy arrived just after sunrise. His name was Curtis, a man in his 40s with tired eyes and a polite but skeptical tone. I walked him through the house, showed him the freezer, the wallet, even the third room. He didn't step inside. Smells like someone dumped a bottle of perfume in here, he muttered. I nodded. It's been that way for days. I can't find the source. He looked around, not touching anything. Then he said something I wasn't expecting. You know, he said slowly, this house has a reputation. My skin prickled. What do you mean? He gestured vaguely toward the stairs. Folks around here talk. Always said the place had a strange energy. Doors that open on their own. Lights flickering. I never put much stock in it. But he looked at me. You ever hear of a girl named Miriam? I shook my head. She used to live here. Before your parents bought the place. Back in the 80s, I think. Disappeared one night. No signs of forced entry. Just gone. Only thing they found was her nightgown folded neatly in the upstairs hallway. I swallowed hard. Which hallway? He nodded toward the second floor. Same one you showed me. After he left, I searched the public archives online. I found the story. Miriam Claire Duncan, age 7. Vanished July 14, 1983. No signs of abduction. Parents both cleared. House was locked from the inside. Case was never solved. The address? My family's house. Same floor plan. Same hallway. Same 3 doors. I stared at her photo for a long time. It was black and white, low resolution. But I recognized her. She was the girl in the mirror. I called Danny again. This time, she answered on the first ring. I found my dad's wallet, I said. Long silence. You know what that means. I don't. I don't want to. It means the room is trading again. Trading. Things go in. Things come out. That's how it works. It's always been that way. That's why our families kept the rule. But why us? Because someone opened it a long time ago, before we were born, and it noticed. Noticed what? She took a shaky breath. That we remember. That night, I dug through the crawl space beneath the stairs. I don't even know why. Maybe I just needed to feel like I was doing something, uncovering something real. I found an old box pushed deep into the shadows. Inside were family heirlooms I'd never seen before. Journals from my grandfather, Polaroids of unfamiliar faces, and a sealed envelope marked Mercer. Do not open unless it comes back. My fingers trembled as I broke the seal. It was a letter. Short, faded ink, but still legible. To whoever finds this. If the room is active again, the house is no longer safe. The third door holds the tether. The girl is the warning. She is not human. She remembers what we forget. Do not engage. Do not trade. It will offer you things. It will take others in return. It does not forgive. No signature. Just a date at the bottom. June 3rd, 1972. The year before my mother was born. That night, I couldn't resist. I returned to the hallway. The third door was open again, wider this time. The mirror on the back reflected the hallway perfectly, except I wasn't in it. In the reflection, my mother stood alone, back to the mirror, staring at the bed, and behind her, something tall moved in the shadows. I blinked. The mirror showed only me. I stepped back, and the vanilla smell returned, thick, choking. From the open doorway, I heard a soft voice. Not a whisper. A child's voice. You can have them back, but you have to give me something. The voice was clear. You can have them back, but you have to give me something. I stood frozen, still just outside the threshold. The hallway light flickered, and the warmth coming from the third room was unbearable, like standing in front of an open oven. Sweet, cloying vanilla filled my mouth, my nose, my eyes. It was everywhere. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. Then I heard something else. A second voice. Older. Raspy. My mother. Don't listen to her, it said from inside the room. She'll lie. She always lies. I took a step back, heart thundering. The girl's voice again. They're here. They never left. You opened the door. That makes you the keeper. The keeper. That word echoed in my head. I didn't understand it, but it made something in me recoil. I stepped away from the doorway, and immediately the light in the hall turned steady. The smell thinned. My lungs loosened. The room wasn't pulling anymore. But it wasn't done. I tried to leave the house. I packed a bag, grabbed my keys, and made it as far as the front porch. The woods were wrong. I don't know how else to describe it. The trees moved without wind. The birds were silent. The air was dense, like the atmosphere around the room had spread outside. The world didn't feel outside anymore. I turned around and slammed the front door shut. Back inside, my phone buzzed. It was a voicemail. From my dad's number. I hadn't called him. The message was only 4 seconds long, but it made me drop the phone. Don't trade, son. Not for us. Please. The message was time-stamped 10 minutes into the future. I began to feel the pressure of something old and immense watching me, not from the room, but from within the house itself. As if the structure had gained awareness, had noticed my presence, and was trying to decide what I was worth. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat outside the third door, staring at the small gap, watching it breathe. Because that's what it was doing, breathing. The door expanded slightly with each invisible inhalation, and the vanilla smell pulsed in rhythm. I wanted to close it, to nail it shut again, to scream. But I also wanted to see them, to know they were alive, to believe that somewhere behind that door were my parents, held in stasis by some force that offered bargains in exchange for memory, for people, for time. I reached out and slowly pushed the door open again. Inside was the same child's room, empty, but on the bed were two objects. My mother's necklace and my father's reading glasses, both items I had never seen since they vanished. I stepped inside. The door slammed behind me. I ran to it and grabbed the knob, but it wouldn't move. It was as if the metal had fused to the wood. The mirror on the door's back shimmered, and I looked up into it, not seeing myself, but my parents. They were inside it, standing together, motionless, pale. Their eyes weren't scared or pleading. They were blank, emotionless, like dolls propped up for display. Behind them, in the mirror's reflection, was the girl. She smiled, and she said, without moving her mouth, "Trade accepted." I woke up in my own bed. Morning sunlight poured through the window. I stumbled downstairs, dazed. The smell of vanilla was gone. The house felt quiet, still. And then I saw them. My parents, sitting at the kitchen table. My mom was reading a newspaper. My dad was sipping coffee. I froze in the doorway. They looked up and smiled, casual, like no time had passed. "Morning, kiddo," my dad said. "Sleep okay?" my mom added. They didn't ask where I'd been. They didn't ask why I looked like I hadn't slept in days. It was like the last 3 months had been erased. I wanted to run to them, but something held me back. Their movements were just a little too perfect, synchronized, like they'd rehearsed being human. I sat down across from them. My hands trembled. "Where were you?" I asked quietly. They looked at each other. My mom shrugged. "We've been here the whole time." My dad nodded. "You must have been dreaming. It's been 3 days. They haven't left the house. They don't sleep. They don't eat. They sit at the kitchen table all day, pretending." I tried calling Danny again, but her number just says disconnected. I checked the third door this morning. It's gone. Not closed. Gone. There's just smooth wall where it used to be. But I still hear things. Tapping beneath the floors. Laughter in the mirror when I turn off the lights. I think I know what happened. I didn't trade something. I traded myself. They came back. But I don't think I ever left the room. And now it's waiting. For the next door. For the next knock. For the next keeper.